Hey there, all you showbiz beauties. Welcome back to Broadway by Ghostlight. I'm Mark Bonanni, and this is episode 10 of Broadway Jeopardy. 10 episodes down. Thank you all so much for the support and the comments. I love making these videos, and I'm happy to bring you a new episode of Broadway Jeopardy every Thursday starting at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you're subscribed and you hit that little bell, and you let your friends know about the series as well. But enough jibber jabber, let's get into this week's game. This is Broadway Jeopardy! Taking a look at this week's categories, we start off as always with last week's final Jeopardy round, which is Let's Review, looking at Broadway reviews. Then it's À Paris, musicals that are set for the most part in Paris, France. After that, we have Who Done It, musicals centered on a mystery. Up after that is A Show by Any Other Name. In this category, we look at shows' alternate or early working titles. And finally, it's David Rockwell Designs. This is a visual category where I show you a Broadway set model designed by David Rockwell, and you name the show that it's from. We end, of course, with the final Jeopardy round, but let's face the music and start off with the $200 round, or the overture round as I call it, where the questions skew way on the easy side to hopefully help you get some fake cash on the board. We start off with the Let's Review category. Your first clue is, this legendary impresario dominated the Broadway review from 1907 to 1931 with his famous Follies. Who is Florenz Ziegfeld? Ziegfeld and his Follies were legendary and really defined what a Broadway review was, at the time at least. When the Depression hit, Ziegfeld lost most of his fortune, and he died in 1932, a year after the last Follies he was directly involved in. For our first trip to Paris, the $200 clue is, a woman pretends to be a man pretending to be a woman in this Paris set musical based on the film of the same name. What is Victor Victoria? Both the film and stage show starred the great Julie Andrews and were directed by film legend Blake Edwards, who also happened to be Julie Andrews' husband. When the musical only received one Tony nomination for Miss Andrews' performance, she felt so strongly that the entire production was egregiously overlooked that she publicly declined her nomination.
I have searched my conscience and my heart, and I find that, sadly, I cannot accept this nomination, and I prefer instead to stand with the egregiously overlooked.
Up next in the Who Done It category, the $200 clue is a musical based on this famous mystery board game played off-Broadway in 1997. It was quickly killed by the critics, in the newspapers, with the typewriter. What is Clue, of course? A version of Clue the musical opened at the Players Theatre in 1997, where it played only a month of performances. Besides being based on the board game, Clue the musical had nothing to do with the now beloved film Clue. There is a play version of Clue currently touring the US, though, that is based on the 1985 film. If any of you have seen it, let me know how it is. I'm super curious. We head to the next category, which is A Show by Any Other Name. Your $200 clue is, this musical's early working title was the name of its leading character, Tevye. What is Fiddler on the Roof? Producer Hal Prince, director Jerome Robbins, and the writing team were never really thrilled with the working title of Tevye. They felt it needed more oomph. A massive list was made of possible titles, including A Village Story, To Life, and Where Papa Came From.
Oh, those names are terrible.
Ultimately, of course, they settled on Fiddler on the Roof, which comes from the paintings of Marc Chagall, whose work also inspired the original set design of the show. Let's finish out the overture round with the David Rockwell Designs category. The $200 clue is welcome to the 60s with this set model here for Mr. Pinky's Hefty Hideaway. What is Hairspray is the correct answer. Yes, Mr. Pinky's Hefty Hideaway, quality clothes for quantity gals. This is the setting for the number Welcome to the 60s in the musical.
Your mama's hip, your mama's in, your mama's looking at herself and wondering where you been.
Hopefully you all aced that first round. We move on to the only slightly harder $400 round. Circling back to Let's Review, the $400 clue is this 1996 off-Broadway review with a 3-phrase title was dubbed Seinfeld Set to Music by critics, which helped it run for 12 years. What is I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change? The review about dating and marriage and all the fun little adventures that go along with that is the second longest running off-Broadway musical behind the original Fantastics. In the original cast was Jennifer Simard, who's set to knock 'em dead this season in the musical version of Death Becomes Her. I hear it's amazing. I cannot wait to see it. The $400 clue over at Paris is come what may, this 2019 musical finally reached Broadway 18 years after its beloved Baz Luhrmann film version debuted. What is Moulin Rouge? Man, dating myself here, but I was a junior in high school when the movie Moulin Rouge came out. Being a hardcore teenage theater nerd and having this film come out was everything. You have to remember, movie musicals were like, I won't say dead, but certainly hibernating at this point in cinema history, and having a new original movie musical that was really made for our generation it was just an amazing time. Truth, beauty, love, all that jazz. We just ate it up. Let's put the who and who done it with the $400 clue. This Frasier star played Lieutenant Frank Ciaffi, a detective who has an affinity for show people in Candor and Ebb's Curtains. Who is David Hyde Pierce is the answer. David Hyde Pierce, of course, played Dr. Niles Crane, Frasier's younger and somehow snootier brother on the show Frasier for 10 years. But when he finally made his Broadway musical debut in 2005 Spamalot, and then starred in Curtains in 2007, he was officially a Broadway baby, and he has since starred in and even directed many more Broadway plays and musicals. Over in the A Show by Any Other Name category, your $400 clue is this musical featuring the songs It's Today and Open a New Window was initially named after another of its songs, My Best Girl. What is Mame is the correct answer. Many wonderful women inherited Mame's bugle from original star Angela Lansbury, including Janice Page, Celeste Holm, and Ann Miller. Composer Jerry Herman desperately wanted the legendary Judy Garland to play Mame on Broadway and even coached her privately to be ready for her audition. But the producers of the musical found the star to be too much of a liability and vetoed the casting. Oh, what might have been. And the final $400 clue in the David Rockwell Designs category is this set model here for a shoe factory on the brink of closing, the main setting for this Tony-winning musical. What is Kinky Boots? The name of that factory is Price & Sons. Here is an actual shoebox from the musical, from Price & Sons. Oh, hopefully this green screen isn't screwing up here. What if I put it in front of my body? Can you see? Price & Sons, real shoebox. Shoemaker since 1890, Northampton, England. That's a fun little prop, huh? We begin the $600 round now, turning up the difficulty level a smidge or two. Back at Let's Review, your clue is this mid-90s review featuring the work of songwriting duo Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller is the longest running review in Broadway history. What is Smokey Joe's Cafe? The long-running review was stacked with hit songs like Love Potion Number 9, Stand By Me, Yakety Yak, and On Broadway, just to name a few. The $600 clue for Ah Paris is, according to the title of the popular off-Broadway show, this person is alive and well and living in Paris. Who is Jacques Brel is the answer. I know it's a review and it doesn't technically take place in Paris, but I think it's acceptable, sue me. The long-running off-Broadway review was songs all composed by Jacques Brel, of course. Brel was a legendary French singer-songwriter and French movie star as well. Let's solve the mystery of the $600 clue over at Whodunit. It's the flop musical Nick and Nora, about famed husband and wife detectives, is based on this famous novel and film series. What is The Thin Man? The Thin Man was a detective novel by Dashiell Hammett, written in 1934. The novel spawned the famous film series starring William Powell and Myrna Loy as Nick and Nora Charles. On Broadway, Nick and Nora were Barry Bostwick and Joanna Gleason. The show also starred Christine Baranski, Deborah Monk, and Faith Prince. My lord, what a cast! Sadly, the show only lasted 71 previews, a much higher number than normal, and 9 official performances. Moving on to a show by any other name, the $600 clue is, this Disney musical was titled Elaborate Lives when it premiered in Atlanta in 1998, before reaching Broadway with its new title in 2000. What is Aida is the answer. The song Elaborate Lives is a big Act 1 and Act 2 power ballad duet. The song is sung fully twice in the musical, but it's a great song, so, we'll allow it. And finishing out the round in the David Rockwell Designs category, your $600 clue is this delightful set for the outside of Marichek's Parfumery, seen in a 2016 revival for Roundabout Theater Company of this Jerry Bach and Sheldon Harnick classic. What is She Loves Me? David Rockwell really outdid himself with this wonderful jewel box of a set for the She Loves Me revival. The way it would open and close, I don't know. I feel like we just don't get big functional sets like that so often nowadays. It's time to raise the roof on this wild party with the $800 round, but before we do, you know the drill. Please, oh pretty please, hit that little like button right below the video. It helps the channel out so much and makes me feel like the most happy fella. Thank you so much. You, yes, you, sitting right there. Thank you. Starting back at Let's Review, the $800 clue is, among the musicals represented in this Tony Award-winning dance review from 1989 were Fiddler on the Roof, On the Town, and West Side Story. What is Jerome Robbins Broadway is the answer. The year Jerome Robbins Broadway opened was a rough year for Broadway, and the review presented a wonderful trip down memory lane to relive many of Broadway's most brilliant and iconic numbers from the past, so it's no wonder that it was a big hit. The review also featured Jason Alexander, who popped into several roles in the show like Tevye from Fiddler and Pseudolus from Forum. Alexander would win the Tony Award for it too before heading west to be in some little sitcom no one's ever heard of. Get out your passport for A Paris. Your $800 clue in that category is based on the play The Mad Woman of Chaillot. This musical, with a score by Jerry Herman, takes place in Paris and under it as well. What is Dear World? Dear World, starring Angela Lansbury as Countess Aurelia, was a flop that has lived on through its cherished original Broadway cast recording. It's one of Jerry Herman's best scores, in my opinion at least. There was a glorious Encores revival in 2023, starring Donna Murphy in the lead role.
Summer is no longer carefree if children are no longer singing, if people are no longer happy, then I don't want to know.
Can you solve this clue from Who Done It for $800? It's Broadway legend Gwen Verdon starred in this 1959 mystery musical, which won the Best Musical Tony Award that year. What is Redhead is the correct answer. The musical is set in Victorian England at a wax museum run by Gwen Verdon's character Essie Wimple's two eccentric aunts. It's one of the few Tony-winning musicals that has really faded out of the public consciousness, and I think that's at least partly due to the fact that the show was built for Gwen Verdon, and there really has never been anyone quite like her before or since. Up next for A Show by Any Other Name, the $800 clue is, now when you license the show, it's called Miracle on 34th Street, the musical. But when it ran on Broadway in 1963, it was called this. What is Here's Love is the answer. While I guess I applaud the producers for not trying to cash in on the name recognition of Miracle on 34th Street, I guess. The title, Here's Love, it's not it. If you've got this question wrong, you've got some homework to do. I have a whole breakdown of the show you can watch after this. Oh, don't give me that look. I haven't shilled one of my old videos for a while now. Settle down. Let's end the $800 round in the David Rockwell Designs category with this freaky carnival setting from the 2014 revival of this cult favorite musical drama. What is Sideshow? The original Sideshow about conjoined twins finding love and heartbreak in a 1930s circus ran for about 4 months on Broadway despite having a fervent fan base. A revised version of the show from which this set model was from came to Broadway in 2014, but failed to outrun its predecessor and closed after only 7 weeks. Okay, my brilliant Broadway nerds, we've climbed every mountain and landed at the $1,000 round. Cue the dramatic music. Good luck, players. This week is pretty devious. The $1,000 clue back at Let's Review is, one of Ziegfeld's biggest rivals was George White, who produced this scintillating review series from 1919 to 1939. What are the scandals? George White's scandals. I know we're going back super duper far in theater history now, but early 20th century theater is so fascinating to me. I love studying it, so I do my best to keep it, from the last 80 years or so for these games, but you gotta let me get in some super oldies in there sometimes.
If you must.
We head to the end of Broadway's golden age with the A Paris category. The $1,000 clue is, Robert Preston didn't quite catch lightning in a bottle when he played a founding father in France in this musical from 1964. What is Ben Franklin in Paris is the correct answer. Robert Preston's portrayal of the famous inventor and founding father was praised by the critics, certainly more than the show was. One apparent highlight was a scene where Ben Franklin and his love interest sing the duet To Be Alone With You while in a hot air balloon.
Sail the skies and watch the people disappear below. I would gladly give up every earthly thing I know to be alone with you, to be alone with you.
The $1,000 denouement of whodunit is... This 1965 musical, based on Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes novels, derived its title from the famous sleuth's address. What is Baker Street? The musical starred Fritz Weaver as world-renowned detective Sherlock Holmes, who once again battles his arch-nemesis Moriarty in the musical. The show was not loved by critics, but the scenic and technical aspects of the show were said to be astounding. And look at this marquee for the show! My goodness! Look at it, it's still going! Your last clue in the A Show by Any Other Name category for $1,000 is... This Sondheim musical has had several titles throughout its journey, from Gold to Wise Guys to Bounce, before finally settling on this title. What is Roadshow? What was believed for many years to be Stephen Sondheim's last musical, the tale of the real-life conmen the Meisner brothers had languished in developmental hell since 1999. After many incarnations and titles, the final version of the show, now titled Roadshow, played off-Broadway at the Public Theater in 2008. The final clue for the main game in the David Rockwell Designs category is this title train car model, the main setting for this 1978 musical about a feuding director and his now famous ex-wife. What is On the 20th Century is the correct answer. In the original production, the megalomaniac director Oscar Jaffe was played by Broadway veteran John Cullum. Lily Garland, Jaffe's ex-wife and star on the rise, was none other than Madeline Kahn, and playing her strapping new boyfriend was Kevin Kline. And with that, it's now time for the final Jeopardy round. Tally up your scores so far and decide how confident you feel in the category Heat Wave. Inspired by the brutal heat we've gotten this summer, we're looking at some instances of heat in different musicals. All right, everyone made your bets? Brandon? Warren? Joyce? Okay, here is your final clue. In this 1970s musical, you'll find two scintillating women performing the Hot Honey Rag. What is Chicago is the correct answer. The late, always great Gwen Verdon and Cheetah Rivera dancing the Hot Honey Rag is something special to behold, and I wish I could have been around to see it live. That is the end of this week's game. Give yourself a big hand. How did you all do? Did the money keep rolling in or out? Be sure to let me know your final scores in the comments. I love seeing your results. If you enjoyed this week's game, please hit that like button, and sharing this video on your social media is so helpful in helping these videos grow and ensures I can keep making them weekly. A massive thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. I appreciate you guys more than you could know. If you want to check out the Patreon, there is a link in the description. You can follow me over on Twitter or Instagram at Ghostlight. I do a fun daily poll on Twitter every day. But until next week, I'm Mark Bonanni. This is Broadway by Ghostlight. Thanks for watching.
Thank you very much. Au revoir.